And we have the superstar himself with a beautiful background. Sebastien, brother, how you doing?
Very good, very good. Listen, for Friday Flow, I figured a nice backdrop of a flowing river would be quite appropriate. So here I am.
I mean, I was just looking at it. It looks amazing. Is that your own property or you're visiting a property right now that you have
I'm
the beautiful
actually
background?
visiting a property right now, and I said to my client that we have a nice relationship. I said, I have a call to make. You don't mind if I use your backdrop? So after the call, I'm going to continue with my client. So we're actually
Okay,
visiting.
so okay, so that is amazing. First of all, thank your clients for me. Second of all, I'll definitely try to keep it as tight as possible. Do you have like a 15 minutes that you could offer me
Oh,
during this
we
conversation?
have all the time necessary, and I figured I'd use it as an opportunity to plug this beautiful property in Saint-François-Laval by the
Okay, but
waterfront.
before doing so, let me just introduce you. So for people who don't know Sebastien, he is a real estate broker as well as an investor, and he has an amazing team in the area of Laval, Saint Francois, and all that. And for people who don't know me from your community, my name is Christopher Dedeyan. I'm a professional coach as well as a peak performance leader on that end. So tell us about that property. Let's start off. What is this property that you're currently visiting?
Well, look, so the property is it's a nice home in Saint-François-Laval. So it's 2 minutes away from the highway. It really feels one of the best things coming here. It really feels as if you're like at the cottage or somewhere up north, and yet it's really close to town. We actually have an offer on the property, so that's why I was here today negotiating. But I figured, why not? Beautiful, beautiful backdrop, and I've become really, how can I say, close with the seller. And when I come to see her, we always sit down on the patio here and discuss and look at this beautiful, beautiful scenery. So, yeah,
I mean, it's not a terrible place to sit down. And like you said, in Saint Francois, for people that are not around the greater region of Montreal, that's a part of Laval, but it's not far at all from like the
no, no,
city, from
exactly.
this, that, and the other. You could go to Montreal as well. And Sebastien, now you kind of mentioned that you already have an offer. Let's talk about what's happening with the marketplace right now, as there's a
Sure.
lot of people around that are interested to buy, potentially interested to sell, but once they sell, they don't know what's happening next because the market has been really hot. What can you talk to about that? How can you support clients with that to really go forward with their real estate dreams, essentially?
The challenging part in this market, and the market is bound to correct. I mean, everybody thinks so. But the challenging part in this market, when you're representing a buyer, is to find the right property. It's to know how much is too much, if ever that's a thing. The rewarding part in this market is when you represent the seller, and you bring them an offer 20, 30, 50, $100,000 more than what they were asking. I mean, look, this changes people's lives. So I think the long and short of it is that whatever the real estate market, there's always something to be done. Whether it's your purchase or your sale, it depends really how you want to position yourself. If it's more for speculation, then you might want to adjust. But if you're looking to get into real estate, even if the market is crazy, it's always the right time to buy. Historically, every 10 years, the properties double. And at the end of the day, I think that with the financing conditions that are more than extraordinary for now, it makes it worthwhile. It makes it worthwhile.
I love that. And you did mention something over there that I always used to mention with my clients, because back in the day I was in real estate as well. Whatever you buy, if you're aiming to keep it for 10 years, even if you buy it like not necessarily with the best conditions financially at that point, in 10 years it's going to be going up. So it's
Sure.
really being smart about how you're buying it. But if you are thinking about long term, it's only going to go up. And I do feel as well, even though we're talking about the market is very crazy right now in Montreal, if you look at it, we're the third biggest city in Canada, and if
Sure.
you compare to Toronto and Vancouver, we're not even close to their prices. And kid you not, my opinion is we are going to get to that as more immigrants are coming in, as Montreal is growing in population, in industries coming here, the tech industry. So I only see it going up. So if you want to invest, I do believe it is the time right now with that. And Sebastien, talk to us about like your journey as a real estate broker, because you've been in the game for a minute, not only for a solid minute. I love your ideology. We've never actually met, which is crazy. Like we have so many things in common. We've never actually crossed paths to meet, but I love the fact that we're doing it here. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this, because now you have a huge team. Talk to us about your journey, how you started brokerage, what was difficult in the beginning. Do you still have some difficult parts now that you have a team of almost 18 plus people, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, by the end of the month, we're going to be 23 in all with staff. So yeah, it's a big team. And to put things into perspective, before COVID, we were six. So, the what happened, in fact, was a great opportunity for growth. It was a great opportunity to really set our sights on what was important to us and surround ourselves with people who had common goals. And that common, I think, bond that we have is really something that goes beyond the transactional aspect. I'm lucky to say that I'm surrounded with people who have a vision that aligns with mine in terms of putting priority on, family, on health, on personal finances, on really a customer experience that goes beyond how much you're making, how much you're selling. So that being said, yeah, I've been in the game for a little while, but the journey I still feel is just beginning. I've been in business for 17 years. I changed my way of working a couple of times. We've developed a team over the last couple of years, but really now this is a new launching point for us. And if this can serve for any of your, any of your audience that's listening, I'm really starting to integrate the way of thinking on a 10-year basis. Okay, what's my next 10 years? What am I going to be doing over the next 10 years? As opposed to focusing more on short, 1 year terms.
Okay. There's so many things we have to highlight right there. So the last thing you just said, it is so important because human beings overestimate what they could do in a year and they underestimate what they could do in a decade. So I love the fact that you have that awareness to switch it. Hey, let's look at decade on decade and work the long term, the slow play towards getting it there. And the fact that you went from 6 employees to now almost 23 from the time of COVID, I 100% understand, Sebastien, because I literally went through the same thing. Beginning COVID, I was by myself. Now I have 8 employees and colleagues within my business. And one last thing I wanted to highlight, and I want you to talk upon this, is the mission and vision. Because what I understood is that you don't get people to come work for Sebastien, for Sperano. No, it's who has the same mission and vision as you. Let's work together for the common good, which I'm guessing is to help people find their real estate properties, to help them get into a better place, and so on and so forth. And talk to me about, what did you learn?
Actually, hold on. Let me touch on that.
Go
No,
for it.
not really. In most of the places are you're going to hear, it's very common to hear the customer comes first and the client comes first. At our team, it's the team that comes first. And I know it sounds a little bit, off-putting, um, but the reality is this, is that if you invest everything in the people that are around you, if they come first, then naturally, organically, the customer will have a great experience. And when I say the team comes first, I mean it sincerely and in a much more comprehensive and a deep way, where they need to be on their shit for everything, for their finances, for their health, for their family. The day off is as important as a booked appointment. These are the things that are important to me. And, it's not about the real estate aspect of it, because that's very mechanical. And I think anybody who puts their mind to it can be a decent realtor. It takes really a certain type of commitment to be a well-rounded, balanced person who has harmony and has vision and is ready to give as much as they're ready to take. So, yeah, it's not about being a good realtor. It's about being, for a very simple lack of better term, just a good person.
Honestly, Sebastian, you're like preaching to the choir. I cannot agree more than what you just said. And let's unpack that. So what do you do currently as the leader of your team with 23 people to help your colleagues live their best version of themselves, play within their greatness, take care of their health, take care of their mindset? So
Lead
let's
by
say grow
example.
up.
That's
Sorry?
what I do. Lead by example.
Okay.
You,
Lead by
you can
example.
you can preach all you want, but at the end of the day, if you don't take care of yourself, it's kind of hard to preach to people to, for them to take care of themselves. So the very first thing I do is make sure that I'm committed to my goals, financially, health, family, and otherwise, and then bring them along on this journey by working out with my team, by doing one-on-ones with them on a regular basis, by having conversations that are going to go beyond the professional scope, and touch on things that are real. Why are we doing this? Why are you showing up for yourself, or why aren't you showing up for yourself? What's behind it? And it's really come to be the thing that I enjoy the most, to see my team succeed, not just in sales, but in their personal accomplishments, in their investments. I have two of my young brokers this year who bought their first revenue properties. One of them who changed their car, one of them who took time with their family. Like, I mean, these are all things that we set out at the beginning of the year, and that we have an accountability schedule all throughout. And there's nothing more rewarding than to see people that are as close as possible, I think, to a balance of happiness and work success.
What does your balance look like? Because I love everything you're saying over here. How do you structure that? What are the rituals, the methodologies, the habits that you put within your life to be balanced and to be that person so you could lead, for example, within your team?
The older I get, the more I get to know how my body reacts to certain things, the more important it is to put the emphasis on structure, on routines. The thing is this, is that I always preach to the team that they have the advantage of me being able to tell them where I went wrong over the last couple of years, over the last 10 years, and what I did right, and help them avoid certain paths. And so the biggest change has have to been the health part, the diet, the water, the exercise. That's something that you can't compromise on. It's number one. After that, everything becomes easier. Waking up becomes easier. Going to bed serene, becomes easier when you've done what you need to do. And I think it's a constant challenge, but in a good way, to stay on top of your routine, to stay disciplined, to stay focused, and to have patience. Most of all, patience in the process, especially when you're starting out. I mean, you want things to come together quickly, and that's fine. That'll give you drive. But again, the 10-year plan, the patience in the process, patience in yourself, and I guess knowing the difference between being hard on yourself and being effective in being hard on yourself. Meaning that if you're going to be hard on yourself to the point where you're paralyzed, where you just feel bad about not doing something, then you need to readjust that. But if you can be honest, accountable, and hard on yourself and say, okay, well, maybe today I messed up, but I'm not going to wait 3 weeks to start again, get back on the wagon, start again tomorrow, start again the next day. And whether that be for your prospecting, for your health, for your client contacts, or for anything, I think that's a pretty good recipe to understand that we're all humans. We all have situations, we all have shortcomings, and to do the best you can and to have fun also.
I love that. So many golden nuggets, what you just mentioned over there. And one thing that I want to highlight, we have the same workout coach, and Matthew and I, we're actually co-authoring a book exactly on that topic of the aspect to understand that your physical health, your mental health while you work out is so much more valuable for your business than you ever think. Sure. And that's what you're just mentioning over there. So I love that aspect. I love that you brought it up, and the having fun, having that ideology. And one thing, I was literally just talking to a client about this. As human beings, we're so tough on ourselves, and that's okay if we want to keep ourselves accountable, but there's a balance. And the way that I go about it, Sebastien, in fact, is I always ask myself, hey, what would I say to my best friend if they came with this problem? Because we're so tough on ourselves. So once you put that mindset of, let me talk like I'm talking to a best friend, then you realize, oh, wait a minute, maybe I could take a little step back. Like you said, if I haven't prospect for X amount of days, okay, cool. Let me not restart Monday. Let me restart today because I'm ready for it. So that's amazing. And I have a question for you, as you're like legit somebody that's been in the industry for so long. What is one of the favorite things, one of your most loved things about the real estate market and about the real estate game? And what are the things that you do not like at all about the real estate game?
The relational aspect of real estate on which we built our businesses has to be the biggest reward. Like I said, the client that I'm coming to see now, I said to her, I said, listen, I'm going to treat you like my mom. And I've lived up to that. And, we have a great relationship. I gain a lot from that. And it's opened a lot of doors. There's a lot of things that I've been able to do or to see, or people that I've been able to meet and connect with because of that relational aspect as opposed to the transactional aspect. So that's definitely my favorite part. And then the part that I could find most challenging, I would say, in this market specifically, what's most challenging is that since everything sells relatively quickly, the depth of knowledge and skill that a good broker needs is less, put under scrutiny because it happens so quickly. In other words, when I'm competing against other brokers, I make it a point to be able to show empirically how our service, is better or differs, or we have other advantages or other features. At the end of the day, when you're selling a house in a week or in a couple of days, it's harder to show those things up front. It's more on the after service, after the transaction. So in other words, to always be ahead of the competition by being able to show, not by bragging or anything like that, but empirically, what is it that you do that sets you apart from the rest? And so we're in that phase now that we had to readjust quickly because the market is so quick, because people's expectations are not the same, because people's needs are not the same. So when you meet a client, it doesn't matter that you have, a certain type of service that would sustain a sale over 3 months. They want to know, well, what are you going to do over the next 3 days? And so to constantly adjust, it's a challenge, but it's also a good challenge. So I guess everything's positive in that sense, in that aspect.
I love the way you brought that up, and I 100% agree with you on the aspect of the relations, and that's not only in real estate, but I think in business in general. It's that human contact, that human
Sure.
relations that's the best. And like you said, now you just have to kind of adjust to the new type of market, new type of expectations from the clients and the market, and so on and so forth. So that makes perfect sense. And Sebastien, as you went from having 6 people under you working with you, now having 23. What is one of the best things you've learned as a team leader, as a manager, when it comes to delegating? What are some of the tricks that you could give to a new entrepreneur, having people under them for the first time, and so on and so forth?
It's far from being perfect, and I'm still learning and adapting. But clarity and expectations, task designation, who does what. And I think it's important to have people understand why they do what they do, especially on an admin level where they're not necessarily implicated at the same level with clients or on the field. What are the consequences of not doing something? What are the positive consequences of doing something else? So it's a lot more hands-on on the working in the business. I would say before, when we were 6. Now it's a lot more hands-on, working on the business, on the behind the scenes, on the one-on-one. So transition, and I guess you come to that point where, depending on what your end goal is, you either want to grow your team to a certain amount of people on which you continue to be on the field, or you're looking at something completely different in which 90% of your time is in human capital resources and people management and coaching and mentoring, which is much more in line with what I'm doing.
I love that. I love that. And before last question that I want to ask you, is I want to be respectful for your time and for your clients waiting to continue the visit. So you did mention you have a 10-year goal, a decade goal. If you don't mind me asking, what is that goal for you in some way, shape, or form? And what are you going to do to put that in action on a daily basis to get to that goal?
That's a very good question. I have 6 months to complete what it is that I've started to end this decade. That's what I'm working on now. And then the next decade is going to be the realization of me becoming the person that I want to, that vision that I have of myself, in which all those different quadrants are in line and balanced and I guess running the way that I want them to. That's what the next 10 years is going to be, building. It's going to be about building on a solid foundation. It's going to be about being much more effective with my time and my resources, and not losing track and not losing sight of what it is that I set out to do. It's basically all of my life and business experience put to good use, and I'm going to do more in the next 10 years than I've done in the last 20.
I love that. I love that. And for sure it's going to happen just with the compounding. And what I understand essentially is that you're changing your story. You maybe had a story of yourself before, and now you're completely changing it, which is the most valuable things. Your state and your story is so much more important, in my personal opinion, than the strategy in itself. The strategy, you know it. You know how to sell. You know how to do your thing. You know how to be successful. But once you change that ideology, then you could succeed at high levels. So once again, my last question, Sebastien, before I let you go, is what can I do to support you more? Is there anything that I could do to help you out, help out your team, and so on and so forth?
That's so funny, because one of the things that I repeat the most in the team is, hey, what can I do for you? And then more importantly, get them to ask one another, what can I do for you? It's something that I tell my kids all the time. Ask your mom, what can I do for you? Ask each other. So what you can do for me is continuing this message, put it out there. Positivity is key. Highlighting challenges with solutions is the only way to go about things. And all I have to say is thank you for inviting me. It's been an honor to be here and looking forward to meeting you in person.
100%, Sebastien. First of all, and I did not know that you asked that question, so I'm so glad that we're in line. And let me just finish off by saying this, and this is not me blowing steam up your butt. I'm somebody very honest. From the get that I started brokerage back in the day, I always used to look at how you do your things. You're very honest. You're very direct. You have a great structure. From afar, I've learned so much from you. And like I said, I am just excited to continue this beautiful relationship together and learn more from you. So keep on doing a phenomenal job, brother. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. And congrats to your show as well.
Thank you. Have a great one, Sebastien. All right.
Awesome. Take care, guys.